Hello, I'm Fred Bursch, President of Bursch Travel, and you're here with me today in our St. Cloud, Minnesota office. You know, our group department has had a lot of requests about Cuba, so I recently sent two of our senior agents down to Havana. I sat down with them today and I'd like them to share their experiences with you.
First of all, you do need a passport with 6 months remaining validity. You do need a visa for Cuba. However, whoever you're traveling with, a tour company that you're taking the vacation with, takes care of the visa for you. We just had to send them a copy of our passport in order for them to do that. And you fly into Miami the day before your departure and they will give you your visa at that time.
Once we got to Cuba, you go one by one, of course. They look at your passport, they ask you a few questions. They stand there and they look at you and don't say anything for several minutes, and it's a little unnerving, but it was still very easy. They pass you through the door, you go into the main baggage claim area, claim your luggage, and it's pretty much the same from there.
Our hotel was absolutely awesome. I would say it would mirror any 4-star hotel here. We stayed at the Malia Havana, which had all of the amenities, including we always had hot water. We had a great bathroom, hair dryer, marble floors, plenty of room, counter space. I can't think there wasn't really anything. Air conditioning worked perfectly. We had a great balcony overlooking the pool. Definitely a very good hotel. I would highly recommend.
Were you able to have internet access at the hotel?
There was access for the internet at the hotel, but it was expensive. I think it was about $15 for a half an hour, and we did not use it at all, but the people that we talked to that did said it was very slow. It took a long time just to send one email. When we first arrived in Cuba, we went straight into doing our activities, and we were shopping a bit and we hadn't had a chance to change our money. And yes, they took our American dollars. They charged us a little bit more as a fee, but they were happy to take our American dollars as well.
Jill, were you able to use your credit card in Cuba?
No, we could not use our credit cards at all. American citizens are not allowed to use credit cards, and I don't think that their system is set up for really anybody to use the credit cards. We had to carry a large amount of cash, and we could keep the cash in our safe.
Were there vendors on the streets?
Not really vendors on the street per se. There were in some areas that we visited. There were vendors out that had, and mostly that kind of brings into the shopping part in Cuba too. There's not really a lot to shop for. I mean, they did have art is one of their main things, some of their wooden products, that type of thing. But you don't find them bothering like you do in Mexico or other places. They just have their things set out and you can look at them. If you buy them, you buy them. It's not like they didn't really, I didn't find them follow me around or trying to really sell you things and pushing you toward them. They were very polite, very respectful, they were always happy, smiling people. I mean, the people would just, you come back with this feeling like, I love these people.
We could not use our cell phones. They did not work at all. Some of the locals had cell phones, so there are some cell towers, but we could not use ours, and there was the option to call home from the hotel phone. It cost $3 a minute, so I did make good use of that to stay in touch with those back home.
One of the most exciting experiences, we actually saw one of their famous dance companies. Absolutely awesome. The music was just, and the vibrance and how they actually set chairs around and did use the chairs for instruments. I mean, it was just, there's no way to describe it. You really almost have to see it to describe it. Probably one of the other most exciting things was riding to dinner the last evening in a 1959 red Ford Thunderbird and driving along the seawall, which was absolutely gorgeous.
We did go to a cigar factory. It was very interesting in that it was this wide open big room of row after row of people having various duties of putting the cigars together. They do them on a quota basis, and they'd go back and get their leaves, and each one would have a certain thing that they'd have to do. We could not take any photos in the cigar factory. Now as Americans, we can bring back up to $100 worth of Cuban cigars. So after the tour, when we went in the gift shop, it was very busy, and I think everybody brought back some cigars.
Do you have any free time while you're on the tour?
Very little free time, actually. They do keep you, and that's part of the stipulations still as us traveling as U.S. citizens to Cuba. And we actually had to keep a log each day, which you have to retain for 5 years, and you may ask to present that at any time. But we'd be picked up at the hotel primarily after breakfast, usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'd probably come back somewhere between 4:30. We had 2 evenings that we were free to go out on our own and explore, and they gave us some recommendations for restaurants. So we did go out one evening and check out a different restaurant, which was very good on our own. And very safe. A lot of people ask, is it safe? But we felt totally safe.
Sometimes in traveling to a communist country, I've felt that the tour guides are giving us the party line. Did you ever experience that in Cuba?
I think for the most part the tour guides were fairly upfront with what was going on within the country. The Cuban guide was open about what his thoughts were. I felt there might have been a little hesitation on his part about what he could say and what he couldn't say. When we were out on the streets wandering around, a gentleman came up to us and asked us if we needed a taxi. And we said no, and then they do the whole thing of, where are you from? So I said Minnesota, and I didn't say the US, I just said Minnesota. And then they say, oh, you're Americans. So you're not quite sure what their reaction is going to be, but their reaction, is they're glad that we were there. But then they also said, when we declined the taxi because we had to get back on the bus, he said, well, that's the problem. They're keeping you away from us and intermingling with us and getting to know us, and the money is all going to the government and the tour guides and things. But we did have the opportunity to spend money outside of those places. We went shopping at the market, we went to the local restaurants and things. So we tried to interact as much as possible and then get the real feel from what the Cuban people are thinking.
How was the food in Havana?
The food was very, very good. It was kind of a combination of Cuban and a little African flavor and Caribbean flavor, Spanish actually, a little Spanish. Rice and beans, of course, chicken, very good fish.
I think that Cuba is best for those who are looking for a learning experience about the culture and the country and not just a beach experience. And I think that it's a great place, it's a fascinating place because of so many things, the architecture, the music, the food, and the history that we have. And it's a great destination if you understand the whole picture.
Part of the reason that I wanted to go to Cuba was because people are asking about it and I had sent other people there. And so to send you to Cuba, I think you're going to enjoy the culture, a lot of the music is absolutely wonderful. The country itself is beautiful. And so I think in summary, it's just a total experience of music, people, buildings, architecture. It's not your typical Caribbean island. It's definitely a cultural experience. And I think it's very fortunate that we do still do it as a cultural program rather than just going to the beach and missing all of what it has to offer.